seems to be the one. Hi, welcome to the gun room. Jay is just recovering from his move, so you can probably see there's all new surroundings. There's no Tony Adams yet, but it'll all be sorted out. It's a jam-packed show today. 4 matches to discuss yet again. And this is all because of the impending World Cup in a country where you can get thrashed for excessive blinking and colourful socks. But first off, it's happy birthday to Arsenal legend Robert Pires. What a player, Jay. What a legend. So skillful.
Yeah, what a player. He had about, he had that first season where you'd say it was his acclimatization period. But then that second season, he really kicked on, and one of the most naturally beautifully gifted footballers, used to just glide around the pitch, didn't he? And scored great goals. Was unfortunate to get that injury, that knee injury at the end of the title-winning season, which meant he missed out on the cup final. But came back the year after, didn't he? And scored the winner against Southampton at the Millennium Stadium to win the FA Cup. So yeah, unbelievable player, unbelievable.
He looked like it was effortless, didn't it? It was just like he didn't even move that fast, but he just had that sort of tricky skill between left and right foot, and he was away. Also on the birthday department, it's the 81st birthday of club legend Bob Wilson. What do you know his middle name, Jay?
I don't.
It's a quiz question. Anyone out there, podcast family, will let you know it's Primrose.
Wow.
Robert Primrose Wilson. I think he was a school teacher just up the road from the Arsenal as well at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get on to Karen Carney. She's been announced as the first inductee of the Barclays Women's Super League Hall of Fame 2022. It's well deserved. It's the 5th actual inductee to the Hall of Fame since it was created by league partner Barclays. She scored 140 or got 144 England caps in her career, and she's a great player, actually 35 years of age, and she won the quadruple in 2007. Okay, let's open up the Pandora's box of Arsenal things. PSV, the second leg of it. What did you make of that? It was a real bit of iron varnish, wasn't it? It was a horrible thing to watch.
Yeah, we didn't play very well. We got dominated from the first whistle. But we said, didn't we, last week? It was always going to be a tough one. Like
two completely different games, isn't it?
Yeah, we're pretty much. I won't say guaranteed top spot, but with them dropping points in the group already, they definitely had more to play for than we did, and I think it showed. We didn't turn up. I think you could tell how annoyed Mikel was at the end, couldn't you? In the interviews, just like the players just didn't turn up, and you could argue that in the games leading up to it, the Premier League games especially, we haven't been at our best. And PSV are a decent side, aren't they? And quite an intense atmosphere inside the ground. And they just battered us. Just one to put behind us. Sharpish, really.
Yeah, it was really ugly. There was nothing to really take away from it, was there, really? But having said that, it's only our second loss of the season, so people started to hit the panic button and get all sorts of tosh coming out on social media. But slow down, people. We're all right. We're in a good position. And as you say, all we've got to do is turn up for the next one. I'm not sure how that's going to go, but we're already virtually guaranteed, aren't we? As I say, there's not really much to say about the game. I noticed they got fined for all the hubbub at the Emirates as well, ripping out seats and throwing flares, which I think was justified. What did you make of Lokonga? He got another outing, but he's just not firing on all cylinders. There's a confidence thing. There's not a great amount of opportunity, but he's been in social media lately with everyone sort of banging on about him. What do you make of him?
Yeah, still not massively convinced yet. He's somebody who's come in.
He's highly rated though, Jay, isn't he? I mean, all these players, Thierry Henry included, really rate him.
Yeah. I mean, he's basically, Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka have played so well this season that, he has to take these small chances, doesn't he, to get any form of consideration for the Premier League team, and he has to take his chances, but he hasn't really done that this season. He looks okay. I do wonder if El Neni had been fit, would El Neni have played ahead of him? I just wonder where those two, when they're both fit, I wonder who Mikel will choose, because El Neni has shown, we know he's a limited player, but he's also got a really good performance in him, hasn't he? Whereas Lokonga, I'm not entirely sure that's the case, is it? At the moment, we haven't seen enough of him, and he hasn't been able to put in that performance that's really made you sit up and think, I can see why we signed him, or I can see why all of these, experts or pundits in the game are all praising him so much. He needs to take his chance more, or maybe a loan period, next season. I was
just going to ask that. You can see him going out for a whole season, can't you, really, to wet his feet?
And because you look at what the loan system has done for, Saliba, he's really benefited from it. Tavares, he's also been playing much better, and I'm sure he'll come back and be a better player for going out on loan. So maybe that's definitely an option for Lokonga.
Yeah, I think so. We've got some emails coming up in a little while. Lokonga's in one of those. If you want to send us an email, it's an Arsenal thing 4@gmail.com. Right. Did you know about this head-to-head rule in the Europa League? It's quite complicated, isn't it? Have you seen the set of rules?
What is it? Who has? Well, yeah, obviously it's the bet. Who had the better of the two games between?
Yeah, it's got points in head-to-head matches among the tied teams, goal difference in the head-to-head matches among the tied teams, goals scored in the head-to-head matches. They don't believe in making anything really simple, do they? It's mega complicated. There's 11 of those.
Wow.
I won't bother, podcast family, reading all those out, or you'll all be asleep and we'll have to set the alarm or something. But there was great wins for the girls. Firstly, 3-1 in Zurich. Jordan Nobbs, after 38 minutes, scored what could be considered as a goal of the season candidate. It really is an immense touch. So much skill. It was unbelievable. And then Arsenal beat West Ham 3-1 in the WSL. And there was another cracker from Nobbs. Also, Blackstenius and Manham. I think I got that right if Lauren's looking in. Right, let's get over to the game, the one we want to talk about. Let's do the team first. It was Aaron Ramsdale, Ben White, William Saliba, Gabriel, Tommy Asu, Martin Odegaard, Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka. It's so predictable now, isn't it? It's scary. Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli up against Forest. Before we go there, the Forest game brought up the 200th appearance for Granit Xhaka and 50 for Aaron Ramsdale. So some people were concerned about Gabriel Jesus not scoring goals before then. I've got no concerns of you, Jay. He'll come good, but he offers so much in other departments. I get sick of saying it, really, but he does, doesn't he? He's not just the finisher. He does essential work as we go through. Oh, something's fell over in the kitchen. It's probably the cat.
Yeah, his performance on Sunday was outstanding. His movement, and he's constantly on the go, constantly looking to get involved in the game. I mean, your question is, are you concerned? I suppose I'm not concerned because he brings so much to the team. The only thing I'm concerned about is maybe he becomes concerned about it and it affects the rest of his game, which you live in hope that he's professional enough and experienced enough to realise that, at City, he I think he was very similar to this, but playing a sort of a slightly more important role. Whereas, you live in hope that he's experienced enough to realise that he's impacting the team in a positive way. The team is the more important, thing than the individual, and we're doing well, and we're winning games, and we're top of the league. But his performance on the day was outstanding. It was a shame, his chance in the second half when Partey played it through to him. I think it was Partey, and he went sort of one-on-one from the left side. Henderson made a good save, but he's a top striker, and I think we both know that our fan base and the media, there needs to be the fall guy, I suppose. There needs to be someone to have a go at, and
every week.
Yeah, and his goal scorer. Okay, so he hasn't scored since the Spurs game, but his performances are still right up there, and he's a handful for defenders. Forest aren't a great side, but he's given the best defenders in the league so far. The likes of Van Dijk and whatever, the run around, and he's a top player, and he's one of the main factors as to why we're top of the league. Maybe not his goals, but his all round performance, and he's like we said before, I think it was a few weeks back, having somebody who's won the amount of trophies that he's won, contributed so heavily, and played under Pep. It's already showing. He's a winner, and he's making the rest of the team winners. So
yeah, totally agree. Tina sent us an email. She says Jesus is a fantastic player, but do we really need a player? But we really need a player, I should say, who can score 25 goals a season. Do you agree?
Well,
the goals can come from anywhere. They don't
have
to be. I mean, look at the Wenger era. They weren't all. Henry scored a bucket full of goals, but they did come from everywhere else as well, didn't they? The Lundbergs, the Bergkamps,
Everybody wants a Haaland who pops up with, in 7 or 8 games, 15 goals and 700 assists, but they're few and far between, these forwards. More often than not, in this day and age, this generation of football, teams play with one striker, whereas back in the day when we had Thierry or Righty, we were playing with 2 up front, and the game, how many teams play with 2 up front now? I can't really think of too many. So you've got to have an all-round striker up top rather than just a finisher, or rather than just a deep line forward, or everybody wants a Haaland, everybody wants an Mbappe, or Messi or Ronaldo in their prime, but they're just not around. And we've got in Jesus a striker. Come the end of the season, if we get in the Champions League, let's say we finish second and maybe do well in the Europa, and he gets 15 goals, that will be seen as an achievement. That will be seen as a good thing. It's all about the team. It's all about getting these wins, getting into the Champions League again, and then we rebuild the squad, don't we? And we add another forward that might complement Jesus more. Again, I really don't know why people are questioning Jesus. From my point of view, like I said, the only thing that concerns me is that he becomes bothered about it. He becomes concerned, and it affects him. But I don't think it will.
I think we also have to think, Tina, who are we going to get to come in if you get another striker? You've got Eddie. He was a little bit shifty about the situation. Then you've got, obviously, the main man. He's been guaranteed that he will start near enough every game, which he near enough has done. So if you get someone else in, they've got to be prepared to just fill in around probably those 2, although depending on who it is, they might get the advantage over Eddie. But it's a real balancing act. And be careful what you wish for, Tina, because we don't need another Aubameyang, do we?
Also, like we said before, it's hard to persuade a forward of any quality to come and be second best. It has to be either a youth player, and Nketiah has struggled for game time this season, and the jury's still out on him. But you know, who do you go and sign and say you're only going to play 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, or if we're losing, you know, you're going to be that plan B. It's tough, isn't it? You know, to try and get somebody to come in like that.
Yeah, I think for me, again, it's that catch-22. Eddie hasn't got much time on the pitch, so you can't really judge him. When he comes on, sometimes he looks really razor sharp, and other times he doesn't. So where are we with that? We don't really know. Arsenal recorded their biggest ever top-flight victory over Nottingham Forest, while the Gunners won by 5 goals under Mikel Arteta in the Premier League for only the second time. I think the last one was 2021. I think it was Norwich. So let's kick off with the action. And we were glad of goals, weren't we? Oh my God, it was like a desert, wasn't it, for goals? Gabriel Martinelli, after 5 minutes, headed home from Bukayo Saka's cross and put us into the lead. It was he had some work to do. The defender on Match of the Day got a bit of stick for the defensive line or position, but Martinelli made that his goal, didn't he? He really put the burners on and got into that box. It was an amazing goal because he had to lean forward down low.
Brave, really, really brave. Lovely ball from Saka. And he just, you know, in and around the box, you know, Martinelli's electric, isn't he? And he got there ahead of him. Lovely, great finish. It was right in front of us. We were right straight down it. Great goal. I just thought at that point, the floodgates were going to open and we were going to get 2 or 3 before half time.
Yeah, it looked like that, didn't it? Let's talk about Saka. He was on the receiving end of a few kitchen sink tackles, wasn't he? It's near enough every game, isn't it? It doesn't seem to be much done about it. What I'm worried about is the expectations on his shoulders because he's so young and we ask him to do so much. He's playing a lot of games and there's a lack of protection. Are you concerned about him at all? Because there's an interesting thing from Charles Watts in goal. It was no surprise to see the winger forced off against Nottingham Forest. He's been targeted by the opposition players for some time now, he says. On one hand, it's understandable because if you stop Saka, then you go a long way to stopping Arsenal. Such is his importance to Mikel Arteta's team. But on the other hand, hello, there's something come up. But on the other hand, it's an issue that really should be taken more seriously, especially by match officials, because the 21-year-old is getting next to no protection from referees. And here's a fact, Jay, for you. In the 12 Premier League games this season, Saka has been fouled 17 times. Just one of those have led to a booking. It's a bit of a concern, isn't it?
Yeah. He got a really heavy challenge in the first couple of minutes from, I think the Forest left back is Lodi or something like that. He got absolutely ploughed into. And he didn't recover. You know, he normally, you know, he takes so many challenges and he's extremely durable. But we were watching him and he didn't recover and he ended up going off injured with. I'm not sure it was specifically because of that challenge, but he couldn't shake it off. He didn't look right. And I read something quite interesting from Tim Stillman, and he said that with Saka, it's almost as if he's refereed differently, you know, like a heavy tackle that would normally be a yellow card on any other player is just a foul. And then a red card challenge or a very close to being a red card challenge on Saka is only a yellow. And I think there's some truth in that because because of who he is, you know, we know that English players are refereed differently, but it's almost as if, oh, it's Saka, he'll be all right. You know, he's okay. You know, he always gets up, and it's something that it's absolute bullshit. Like he gets targeted every week, and God knows why the referees don't do more, or just referee him like everybody else. But I haven't heard anything since the game in relation to his injury. Obviously, goes without saying. I hope he's all right. But I think that Arteta did the right thing. He withdrew him even before half time. You know, because we've got the Chelsea game coming up. and we were saying we need to get him off, get him out of the game, but he is so key to us, isn't he? And you can understand, to a certain extent, you can understand opposition fullbacks or managers instructing their fullbacks to go at him and trying, but he's just he draws fouls. He's similar to Jack Wilshere in that sense, isn't he? He keeps hold of the ball. He's quick. But I hope he's okay and ready for Chelsea.
Jack Grealish said he gave him some advice on the subject of getting tackled, or nasty tackles as well. He just said that you've got to learn to ride them, and I've learned to do that really well, which he has. I mean, he spends quite a bit of time, like Mr. Zaha, on the old turf, doesn't he? But so Reiss Nelson came on. Jay, what were your thoughts on Reiss Nelson coming into this substitution? I mean, for me, he's had a bit of a checkered past. He's looked very promising, and we're all excited because he's a Hale End boy. I think he's been with the club since 9 years of age. So he is one of our own, and we always like seeing that, don't we? We like seeing these kids come through and make a name for themselves. But then he's gone off the boil. He's gone out on loan. He's come back. The odd game here and there hasn't looked sharp. What do you make of him? So when he's going to be better after this, but
So when he came on, he came onto that right hand side, and we were switching the ball quite well. We were going from side to side well. Partey heavily involved. Ødegaard was dropping deep, and they were looking for. Whereas Xhaka would be a bit, Xhaka would be closer to the touchline, and it opens up the game. Forest were narrow, and then whenever the ball went out to Xhaka, they were quickly over to him and trying to foul him or tackle him or whatever. Whereas Nelson was much more narrow, so we didn't have that width on the right hand side. And to be honest, we were saying we wanted Nelson to get closer to the touchline. He was always, when he did get the ball, he was looking to come back inside. He didn't try and test the fullback. He didn't get to the touchline. And at halftime, I mean, me and my son, we were talking about Nelson. It was like, maybe, I don't know. We had other options on the bench, and I thought subbing Nelson on was a decent show of faith from Arteta.
Very brave.
Yeah, but we were saying, I just don't think he's ever going to get to that level. Don't think he's, has he got the confidence or has he got the belief? And then 10 minutes into the second half, there wouldn't be, there is no, if there's one Arsenal supporter out there who was not surprised by that first sort of 10, 15 minutes of the second half, then I'd be absolutely shocked, because not only did he took his goals brilliantly, but he was heavily involved, confident, taking players on, and like I said, his finishing was superb. And fair play, because like you said a minute ago, his career probably hasn't gone, the path hasn't gone the way he wanted it to, or many people expected it to. Nobody, I think we expected him to be maybe a bit further down the road in his development and be a main part of this first team squad, and that obviously hasn't happened, and it still may not happen. But fair play to him, because he's, especially that first goal, he sat two of them on their arse. He sat them down, and then he got a bit fortunate with the rebound, but he finished it beautifully, and fair play to him.
We just have to say, we don't always get these assessments right on these players, do we? It was in the paper, I think, or the online version, that his contract is running down. And if he's offered another contract, he will take it. He feels part of the Arsenal family. He wants to do well for Arsenal. Would you offer him a contract, or would you flog him off? He's added an interesting vibe to this now, hasn't he?
It's just, I've said to you before, I'm always so reluctant to let. Well, first and foremost, if we did offer him a new contract, I don't think it would be on high wages. So I think from that point of view, it's a no-brainer. I think he still has to show it a bit more. I think he has to earn that contract still, because I think if you looked at where he is now, even with that performance on Sunday in the bank, what clubs would come in for him. You know what? If you probably expect maybe 2 or 3 Premier League teams at the moment would come in for him, but there won't be too many. I wouldn't have thought. So I would offer him a new one. I've said to you before. I'm so hesitant to let these young kids go because you don't want to see him achieve elsewhere, do you? You want them to achieve with us. So with all that in mind, I think it'll be a cheap contract with the potential to sell at a decent price. You know, if we did okay, but I mean, I think he's got to earn it a bit more, hasn't he? I think he's still got to be a bit more consistent. But he's an option, you know. Pepe wasn't good enough. He wasn't deemed good enough, and he did pop up with the odd goal or two, didn't he? And he did come in, and he had little spells where he scored goals, and Nelson's got to do better than him. So I'd offer him a new one. What about you? Would you offer him a new one?
Well, I think, as you said, it's consistency, isn't it? And he's shown very little of that. 1 minute he looks like a Rolls Royce, and next minute he looks like a moped. So we had the Rolls Royce this one, didn't we? And so we went in at 1-0, that to answer your question. But we'll get to his goals now because we're all infused about him. We think he's the best thing since sliced bread this week. So Partey releases Xhaka in the final third. And he offloads to Jesus, who keeps the ball moving. Take it up from there, Jay. Walk us through that.
So he, where am I?
In your lounge. I know you've moved.
He lays the ball. Yeah, he lays the ball off, and Nelson. I can't remember which way around it was, but the first one he takes on. Well, he puts 2 of their defenders on the backside, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And then he shoots. Henderson makes a decent save, and then there's 2 further Forest defenders on the line, and he puts it straight in the top corner, and as calm as you like, and as he took it as if he'd been with this, you know, he'd been with this team for a good couple of years.
It was kind of seamless, wasn't it? Saka went off, he came on, and he kind of took up that role. But what I did notice, Jay, was he didn't play his usual game. Because for me, he's too far out, Reiss Nelson. But he seemed to have a little bit of devilment about him, wanted to get in the box and kind of flurry around the periphery.
It was almost as if his second half, half time, maybe Mikel drilled it into him that this is your chance. This is, because like I said, in the first half, he wasn't like that. And he wasn't prepared to take players on. And maybe Mikel said it's time to step up. And he definitely did that. And his finish was superb because he could have ballooned it. He could have put it, he could have just fluffed his lines completely, but he didn't. Put it straight in the top corner. And we couldn't believe it. Like, I didn't think he had it in his locker, not with... no, maybe he has got it in his locker, but for somebody who hasn't played, he's got such limited game time. He could have been a bit rusty, and he wasn't rusty at all. When he was in front of goal. So yeah, great finish.
Yeah, he was bang on fire. 52 minutes, close range finish. Arsenal worked the ball from the tight quarters between Odegaard and Jesus. Tell us about that. What your thoughts of that one? Where were you, sort of staring down at the big screen, waiting for something to happen? No, what's going on? Who's that?
Yeah, no, it was again. He was in like more of a centre forward position, wasn't he? And I think it was Odegaard got to the touchline, cut it back, and he flicked it in. And again, I thought it was Jesus because of his position. But then I saw his number, and a good finish, another great finish. You got to be there, haven't you? And fair play to him. Maybe if he hadn't scored the first one, would he got into that position? Maybe not. But fair play to him. And he's like I just said, he took his chance. And I wanted him to get an hat-trick, to be honest.
There's nothing like motivation of your contract running down, is there? When your contract's like on your last 6 months. You've got to pull your finger out and do a bit. I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying that it could possibly be that as well, playing for his contract. So Tim of the North Bank says, Nelson has surely saved Arsenal money if he continues to play as he did against Forest. Comments, Jay? I think we've kind of covered it.
Yeah, yeah. He's just got to continue. He's got to be more consistent. Again, I'm not. I don't know the extent of Saka's injury, and I'm not entirely sure that even if Saka was injured or would be out for a sustained amount of time, Nelson would play. I think Vieira might be preferred, or maybe somebody else, but he's definitely done himself the world of good, and he's just got to be more consistent, hasn't he? He's got to not think about too much other than contributing to the team whenever he does get that chance, because he's only going to get very limited opportunities, and he might obviously Thursday against Zurich will probably be one. He'll probably start that game, and he's got to take his chance, so we'll see.
I'll tell you what I noticed about this game. It might have been just me, but I felt that this was the best game between Thomas Partey and Xhaka. They looked like a well-oiled midfield machine. Yeah. Absolutely sublime. One sits back a little bit, opens up the play out to the flank. It was lovely to see, and both heavily involved in this game yet again.
I've got to say, I completely agree with all of that. I thought Partey, man of the match for me by a long way. He was unreal. Like his decision making and his passing, and he was superb against a fairly limited opposition. But I do need to say there was a few times Ryan Yates.
Hold on a minute, Jay. That limited opposition beat Liverpool. That's how limited they were. So it depends on day.
Yeah, but I mean, Forest at home are a different animal than they are away. Ryan Yates, the Forest centre midfielder, I counted 3 times that he went through the back of Xhaka, trying to wind him up, trying to get in his face, trying to get a reaction out of Xhaka. And Xhaka didn't complain to the referee once. Xhaka laughed at Yates, didn't react really in any sort of aggressive way. And I just I've been a massive critic of Xhaka, but he's definitely grown up, and he's definitely he likes, or he's enjoying this sort of vice captain role, and he's leading by example, and he was superb. But I just wanted to highlight that because Yates was doing his best to try and wind him up and get a reaction, and he didn't do it. He didn't bite, and that's not always the case with Xhaka, is it? So, but yeah, Partey, absolute joy to watch. Great goal, but his all-round contribution was second to none. He would have, I'm sure he's played. It won't go down as his best performance because of the limited opposition, but he was fantastic.
Yeah, the Man United game when he played Man United last season, he was epic in that. But he does put in the shift. He kind of ties everything up without shouting from the rooftops or blowing a trumpet or anything like that. Let's talk about that 57th minute goal. For me, Jay, it was similar to the gig at Tottenham, the pre-season win against Chelsea. It was almost like it's like ballet, isn't it? They've choreographized, or whatever you call it. They've done this thing, and he knows exactly where to be when that ball comes across.
Yeah, he loves that finish, and again, there's another video where
this is the man we used to say put it over the bloody
walls. But I tell you, there were about 2 or 3 others that did go into Rose, and it was funny because they came after that shot or his goal. Excuse me. Which was an unbelievable finish, and he's got that in his locker now. We know that, but it was so funny because when he ballooned these other 2 that went in, it's everyone's like, there you go, there's a Thomas Partey that we know and love. But he's one of the most complete midfielders I've seen, and he's finding that consistency now. And that must be because of very obviously because he's not injured, and fingers crossed we can manage him through the season, because he's obviously going to go to the World Cup, isn't he? And I just hope that he comes back all right.
Yeah, that's another key position we've got to look at. We can't afford to lose him yet again. The man who never got injured, he spent more time on the bench than anybody else, I suppose. But when he is on song, he is the linchpin. His skill is very obvious, isn't it? And what he's doing. Anyone who's got any doubts about it, again, isolate just Thomas Partey. Just watch the performance of Thomas Partey, and you can see then why everyone gets hysterical about him. So let's move on to the 78th minute. Martin Odegaard, what a delight. I mean, the goals seem to get a little bit tidier, a little bit neater, a little bit more spectacular. This was my favourite. Partey's was a scorcher, no doubt. I mean, you know, you put that in a montage, no problem at all. But that goal by Odegaard was fascinating. At the time he struck the ball, Jay, he had 3 defenders, as you saw, in front of him and 2 close behind. How does he do all this? He kind of makes his own time and space.
Yeah, he's got such great technique, and the way he dribbled, he took the ball into the box. He was like faking the shot, and then he was like drawing the defenders in. Now, whether he meant it or not, I don't know, but they were absolutely petrified of tackling him, weren't they? Because of the penalty. And I mean, that is a tough finish from that angle. You know, he absolutely whacked it, which I love. I love goals where they get absolutely thundered bastard into the top corner. But that was like a, beautiful goal and great finish. And he deserved it. He was quality on the day. Different level. He pops up in areas, he's not afraid to take a tackle either. And he's, I suppose, he's more, I can imagine in the changing rooms, he's a bit more, slightly less vocal than some of the other players, but he leads by example, and he's such a joy and great player. And he's found his home, and I mean that goal and the performance again, absolutely superb.
I think he could get, if he puts his shooting boots on and becomes a bit more selfish, I reckon he could get 10, 12 goals a season quite easily. He's got the ability and he's in the right positions all the time. So, he could do very well for us. Right then, let's do the match stats. Shots, Arsenal 24, Forest 5. I've got wonky glasses. Can you see it? I can just about get them on. They're a brand new pair as well. They're a bit stiff. Pardon the expression. Shots on target, Arsenal 10, Forest 2. Tells its own story, doesn't it? 70% possession for Arsenal, 30% for them. 618 passes for us, 275 for them. So that means we really hemmed them in. 89% pass accuracy for us, 75% for them. We were talking about Forest, weren't we, the other week? And Steve Cooper, isn't it? They seem to have turned a corner with the Liverpool win. But on the evidence of what we've seen in that 5-0 stuffing, do you think they can still survive? Do you think they can still stay up? It's looking a bit dodgy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just going to be their home form. They're not going to pick up too many points away from home. Any point on the road is going to be a bonus point. The atmosphere inside the City ground is up there with the best in the league. It's a tight, the stands are tight to the pitch, and doesn't matter rain, sun, snow, doesn't matter. The fans are superb inside that ground, and that that does make a difference. And they're going to have to pick up as many points at home. They can stay up, because I don't think. I mean, it's tough. I don't think Bournemouth are much better than Forest. I don't think Everton are a great side, but they are slightly improving. Sorry, Paul. I think Villa, they've got to get their act together. They've got Emery, so God knows. Wolves, they're not a great side either, but I think they're going to be favourites to go down. They've taken some batterings, but they've also, that Liverpool result, that is in their locker, and it's all going to come down to their home form.
I think if you look from 7th in the Premier League table right down to the bottom, you can see there's a little bit of a gap forming at the front where everyone's leading the charge, and from 7th on the way down, it could be anybody that slips down there. And form is going to be crucial if you start sort of picking up draws or losses.
Yeah,
You'll be down there in a real hurry. Hopefully, I mean, I've been up to their ground quite a bit in the past. I like the place, and it goes back to Brian Clough and all that for me. So I've really got fond memories of them, and they were such a successful team. Old Cloughie moulded them out of nothing, absolutely nothing. So it was quite sad when they started slipping through the divisions and all the rest of it. But it's great to see them back, and I wish them well. Let's talk about the games ahead in this crammed old football box. It's getting on my nerves really, because it's four games every podcast, so it's quite tough, isn't it? So the 3 games ahead, we've got Zurich. Let's talk about them one at a time. Zurich, how do you think we're going to get on in that? That one is at home, so we should do all right in that, shouldn't we?
Yeah. You'd fancy us to beat them. They're probably the weakest side in the group. A comfortable win, 2 or 3-0, which will win the group, and means that we don't end up playing. Because I think if you come second, you play one of the teams that drop out of the Champions League, don't you? So you don't want that. So you have to play an extra game in the new.
It does depend who it is, but you don't want to wind up with a Barcelona or something, do you?
Exactly.
A nice trip abroad, that'd be all right, wouldn't it? And they could say hello to Lauren while they're out there. Chelsea, then the next game, that's away at the old Grot Pot ground. How do you think we're going to get on? That's a tough one, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, because they got stuffed by Brighton, and yeah.
I can't stand. I've got to be honest, people. There's certain clubs that obviously Spurs, Man United, I can't stand, but they are very close. And to stay above, obviously Spurs are top. Man United and Chelsea, I couldn't split them with a bus ticket. They really get on my nerves.
Yeah,
all sorts.
Yeah, Chelsea, absolutely horrible. They're disgusting. I think as long as we don't lose, I think if a draw away at Chelsea is always not a bad result. But then
it's not a disaster.
No, but this is also a Chelsea managed by Potter, who's new into the job. Obviously, just had I think it was their first defeat under him, wasn't it, against Brighton? So,
fancy losing to them as well. What a tough spot outfit. I bet he regrets moving now.
It's a winnable game. I've said all season that Chelsea are there for the taking this season, and it's a winnable game. And as well, if we do go there and get a result, it would be the best result of the season. It would be, because you're away from home, it reiterates your quality, doesn't it? To win it away at Chelsea. I know we won there last season, and I think the season before, but we've, a win now would, obviously a lot of teams will go to Chelsea and slip up, but it's a winnable game. And I think, however, I'd be happy with the draw.
Yeah, I would. I wouldn't be too fussed about it, but I think we can do it. The good thing is that Potter's just got his feet under the table. That he's creating a whole new vibe there, isn't he? Trying to get people to play his methods and all that sort of thing. And I think we're playing them probably at the right time. So after that one, I'm going to predict we're gonna win 3-1 for that one. I think we're going to stuff them there. That would be nice. And then the last one before the break is Wolves at home. Fed to the Wolves.
Yeah, I think I read or I heard on the radio earlier that they've got a new manager. I think it's that Lopetegui, the Spanish,
what?
the Spanish manager. So
never heard of him.
Yeah, so he'll probably be in charge when we play him.
Who's he managed?
I think he used to be the Spanish manager.
Really?
Yeah. but I still, we should be beating them. You know, we should be, you know, got to be confident against playing a team like Wolves who've struggled all season. Got Diego Costa, haven't they, up front? So I don't think he's scored. But
that was a smart buy.
Yeah, but
I hate him. I don't like
him.
Yeah,
he's scored against us a couple of times, hasn't he, down the years? But yeah, got to be confident about that. I'm going to put 3-1.
There was a bit of a to-do on Facebook this week. A percentage of fans still championing the dismissal of Mikel Arteta for some reason. So if we go into December in this type of form, at the top of the table or second, the doubters really need to reevaluate where they're taking this crusade, don't they? Really, because they've got no fuel in the tank, have they? When you look at it, Arsenal opening 12 Premier League games. If you go through the various seasons, I won't do them all because there's a big list. But 2018-19, at this point in the season, we had 24 points. Then 19 to 20 season, 17 points. 20 to 21, 13 points. 21 to 22, 20 points. And here we are, 12 games in, 31 points. So everyone's entitled to their own opinion and stuff. But if you cannot be objective and judge it on the figures you're seeing, on the performances you're seeing as well, I just really don't see where you're going with the crusade. And that's to you negative people out there, sort yourselves out. What about you, Jay? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. We've said it many times, and if you can't see that we've improved and we're improving, then I don't know what you're watching. Because they're a club. Man United are way behind us, and everybody's saying that they're back, and that they're back challenging for the title, and you've got Spurs, and you've got some teams that have spent, Liverpool, Chelsea spent big money, and they're miles behind us. And this isn't luck. This isn't because of the fact that the opposition teams are throwing games away, or it's down to us being good and us being consistent, and the Arsenal, winning games that maybe we would draw or have lost in previous years. And Mikel and the coaching team, their methods are, that they're paying off, and we've been good, and we've been good so far. But I agree with when the league restarts after the World Cup, I think around Christmas time, if we're top of the league still by then we've only got a week or so until the transfer window opens, and then, like we said, I think we said it last week, then it's either a stick or twist, isn't it? Mikel and Edu either go to Josh, and say we've got a real chance of winning the league here, and the only chance we're gonna, the only chance we've got, or big, way to improve the team is to go and spend some cash and maybe bring in Tielemans before the end of the season. So it might already be lined up that he might be coming in the summer for free, but it might be that we go back to Leicester and say, right, we'll give you 10 million for him, just to give us that cover, just in case Thomas Partey gets injured, or we go out and spend massive money on Mudryk or somebody else to really bolster the squad. Because as well as us being top of the league at Christmas, we could also see Liverpool being way behind, and Spurs maybe have dropped a few more points, and they go big in January, and we don't want to be left behind again, because you live in hope that Arteta and Edu have learned from last January, and learned that maybe signing nobody cost us a certain amount. So look, we're in a great position. Stats don't lie. What you said is massive. We all knew it was going to be with Mikel when he took over. We all knew there were going to be ups and downs. He massively went down the youth route with the signings and the faith that he showed in the players that were already in the squad. He let go of the big time Charlies or the big earners that weren't prepared to put a foot in and put the effort in. And we knew it was going to be tough. That's why when we do come up against the results like against PSV or the Man United defeat or, you know, whatever downs occur, you don't go overboard because it's a young squad. It's still a young squad we're playing now. It's still full of young footballers compared to their, you know, their counterparts in other teams. So, look, we're top of the league. How can you not be like buzzing? How can you not be buzzing? And long may it continue. Absolutely.
I think the thing, as you said, is this is an opportunity for us to get a title. If we go through to January, maybe mid-January, it looks like a title race. Maybe that's, you know, we should be putting in the effort and bringing in some new personnel, because you might not get that chance again next season, because each season is really surprising, isn't it? Down the bottom, down the top. I mean, looking at Arsenal objectively from last season, 3 straight losses, we were all panicking, hitting the panic button. What's going on? Then it's the complete reverse. Look at Liverpool. Liverpool won the title. They've gone on to bigger things. And this season, they're like, they couldn't win a match if you didn't put a team out. It's incredible. So if you are going to take your chance, spend your money now, and you might not have to invest so much in the summer. But I think you're right. We missed a trick last season and we could have got top 4, but we didn't reinforce. I can see where they were going with it. You know, let's just roll with it. We've got a decent team. Other teams aren't playing as well, but we got a bloody nose.
I mean, so if you were offered 4th now, would you take it?
Oh, no. Because unfortunately, the ambitions have changed for the fans, because we didn't even expect to be where we are now. Yeah. So I think when we kicked off the podcast at the beginning of the season, the pre-season episode, I think we said 4th. Yeah, we would definitely get 4th or 3rd. I can't really remember, but we were quite optimistic, and justifiably so. But now we're 1st, and we've been there for quite a while, and we seem to be delivering on a regular basis. Yeah. The parameters change. Mm-hmm. And I could see I'd be comfortable. Obviously, I want 1st, but I'd be comfortable with 2nd or 3rd. And I think it's well deserved for those boys that are putting in the effort as well.
Absolutely. I think we all agreed that Champions League football, it had to be the goal this season. But as the season goes on, you know, your expectations do change. And I mean, I don't know what, just bear with me. I don't know what the points difference is between 1st, where we are now, to 4th at the minute. So it is,
4 or 6 points or something.
7 points.
7 points.
Newcastle. So 8 points to Man United in 5th. So, and that's a lot of points to drop when we haven't dropped many. And that it also means that those other teams have got to keep, you know, ultra consistent. And I just think I'm so reluctant to say we're in the title race, because we're not really. But I mean, my son is absolutely adamant we're in the race. We're going to be in it till the end of the season, and everybody expects us to drop out, don't they? Everyone expects us to drop, and that might happen. But what a great position to be in. And I mean, how enjoyable is it? You know, we didn't expect this, did we?
I'll tell you what's great for young fans like your son. The first taste of success is amazing. I mean, I've had it going back to 1971, the cup final, the double year, going through to FA Cup finals with United at Wembley. That success, 89. I mean, oh wow, it was gone from a famine to a feast. You know, it was unbelievable. Great stuff. Sorry, the power just started fluctuating. I didn't turn it on. Podcast family, I do apologise. Right, Arsenal news in the transfer window. Apparently, all the top papers, the red tops and all the rest of it, are there papers these days? I never bought one. I haven't bought one for about 7 years. But apparently, they're saying that Arteta is going to be backed by the club, £50 million. Now, I'm not being a sort of moaner or something, but what is £50 million going to buy you? Ronaldo's shin pads. What do you think, Jay? 50 million?
Yeah, I mean,
Is it doable?
it all depends on who they've earmarked to sign.
Well, that Mudryk is apparently now valued at £75 million.
So it won't be him. It'd be someone like
Well
if
spotted.
if we picked up a an Erdegaard type signing for 30 million, or someone they're signing. You can't really argue with many of their signings, can you? Edu and Arteta they've strengthened the squad really well over the last couple of years. So you live in hope that can continue. We are still light centre midfield. We've got players, but I think there's a massive drop off in quality when Partey doesn't play, and when Xhaka plays every single game at the moment, doesn't he? He never has a rest.
No.
He never. He's never.
I don't think he needs one.
But he's
Probably
so
runs on solar power.
Yeah. And we could maybe do with, I know we've said before, and a winger again to help out Saka. So let's just hope that they buy. Oh God, Spurs have just scored.
Well, we'll skip over that. We don't want to depress ourselves with Tottenham enjoying any success whatsoever. Hopefully, this year at some point they'll not win another game and they get relegated. That's how we feel about them on this podcast, obviously. Right, let's move on to the next rumour, which is Mikel Arteta apparently being eyed up by Barcelona to replace Xavi. I can't see it myself because he said, I'm fully focused on the job that I have to do here. We have a lot to do and I'm really enjoying it. I feel privileged to manage this football club. I'm extremely happy.
I mean, a consequence of doing well is that people will inevitably, other teams will inevitably want him, and people, the media will link him with jobs because he's doing well. That's football, isn't it? Emery left Arsenal, was successful elsewhere, and now he's back in the Premier League. That's the way managers, if they're successful, you get linked with the big jobs. I don't think he'll leave. I think
he was at Barcelona, wasn't he? So
yeah, but I think
it's just the press stirring it up again, isn't it? We're doing well. How can we undermine that?
And if maybe at some point in the future, but I think he's very much, he's a massive Arsenal man, and I think he definitely. What's the best way to say it? He definitely. I think he's grateful that Arsenal had the faith in him to give him such a huge job at a young, very young, inexperienced manager, and but he's done amazingly well. And I've said to you before, there were times when I doubted him.
I remember you saying that, yeah,
a million times more. Even convinced me that I was wrong then, and he's the right man for the job, and he's doing amazingly well. And it's not a surprise that he's linked with the teams because he's doing so well.
I think the thing as well is that when you look at it objectively again, Arteta's just started. This is his Arsenal now. This is where he's been he's had to clear out. He's had to bring in. He's had to balance the team. He's had money to spend. He's had to shift all the counters around. And now this is the first square on the block. So he's not really going to disappear. Maybe in 4 or 5 seasons when he gets to where he wants to get, if he wins a Premier League title, if he's consistent in the Champions League, that would probably set him up for moving on. But not at this stage. The job's not done. And everyone will know that as well. Oh, well, when you were Arsenal, you got picked up by another team, another club, and you just left them high and dry. He's not like that. And he's, as you say, he's been shown an immense amount of faith. So I don't think he's the type to just wander off. 2 more things to go, Jay, before you nip off, have a sandwich, a wee, and a cup of tea. Jeff asks, Nuno Tavares, would you sell him in a transfer window? Which is quite an interesting one.
I think he's done all right at Marseille. I think he's scored a few goals. No, I won't sell him. I'd keep him. I think he could be a really good, promising player in the future. And if we do sell him, this period for Marseille, even though they've just lost to Spurs, gone out of the Champions League, it's good for his value, isn't it? So he looked a bit rough and ready last season, but also there were periods where he looked really good as well, wasn't there? So I think there's a player in there. I'd keep him.
Tottenham going through. Oh, it just gets worse, doesn't it? Who scored, by the way?
It was Højbjerg and Longley.
Oh, okay. Right, last one is let's have a look at this. Adam Neese. Adam Neese. I hope I got that right. Maybe we should talk about that dude, Fabio Vieira. I don't know if I'm the only one not impressed by him. Maybe Arteta brought him in just to befriend Martinelli. Terrible player so far. I think that's a bit extreme.
Yeah, I think he's looked again similar to Tavares, I suppose, in the sense that he's looked good in patches. He scored that great goal against Brentford, and he's come on and done well I think he did well at Old Trafford, and he's done well when he's come on a couple of times. But then he's also looked really awful. And again, someone who's very young, moved to the club at a young age, big money. I think he just needs to be given a chance. There is a player in there. He needs to get used to the physicality of the league. Even on, just recently, he gets brushed off the ball easily, doesn't he? And I think he's looking for a bit more protection from the referees, which he's not going to get at the minute. The way the league is, a lot more the referees are letting a lot more go. But there's a player in there. I can understand. I don't understand people calling him crap and like, let's get rid. But I understand people's frustration because he is a bit frustrated. I mean, that performance against Southampton, that was right up there with. But I do need to say, Jesse Lingard, on Sunday, that was one of the most impressively poor performances I've ever seen.
I like that, bit of salt, bit of sugar. Yeah.
At one point, he picked up the ball, he dribbled it forward, and he lined up a shot. He was about 25 yards out, and it went out for a throw-in. And he's, when he went off and he literally did nothing right. He couldn't even complete a 5-yard pass. And when he got subbed off, the whole stadium were just cheering, and it was an amusing point of the game. But yeah, go back to Vieira. I'll keep him. Great player. Not a great player. Could be a great player. Just needs to maybe bulk up a bit. Looks like a child, doesn't he? Looks like a teenager.
Well, look at Martinelli. He just hit the gym, didn't he? And he put on probably about a stone, and that was all muscle. So it's doable. The fascinating thing before we go is Jesse Lingard had it all going for him, didn't he, at West Ham? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, West Ham were back in for him, and he chose Forest. I just didn't understand the logic of the move because he was one of their better players at West Ham.
He was,
and he was high profile. And then he's gone to Forest. They must have done perhaps they hypnotised him in a sort of nice lounge room or something.
Big bags of cash.
Yeah, I could never understand the move. Anyway, people, we've had our hour and a little bit. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the YouTube version and like and follow the audio version. If you've got any questions or you want to join in the show, it's an Arsenal thing 4@gmail.com. My thanks to Jay in his nice new shiny mansion. There's no whereabouts are you now, by the way?
What, in the world?
Yeah, whereabouts are you? What area?
We're just in a village outside Nottingham. So it's
right. Oh no wonder you nipped up the road to see the game, eh?
Exactly, yeah.
What are the ticket prices like there anyway?
So well, my son's in one of the supporters clubs, so we get relatively cheap tickets. So it was really good. The club they're really good for support. I don't think I've said this on the pod before. And if you've got a supporter or if there's anybody listening that are interested, they have a special disability team at the club that looks after disabled supporters. My son's in a wheelchair. You get you get basically treated superbly. There's a disabled supporters lounge. I don't know if anybody's aware of that.
Wow.
Which is next door to the museum at the Emirates, and in there you can get hot drinks, and especially like we've been down there at the deepest, darkest part of winter, and sometimes, you know, to get out of the freezing cold, you can go in there and it's really nice. The staff are really nice. You get a hot drink, all free of charge, and you can mix with other supporters, chat to them. Lovely room full of Arsenal memorabilia, and then inside the ground, the staff are always really helpful. If you drive to the stadium, you can park underneath the stadium. You get a free parking space, and the club are really welcoming and accommodating for supporters with any disabilities. So if anybody's interested, just email us and we can point you in the right direction of the people that you could speak to. But yeah, great day.
Fantastic, isn't it? Just know it makes you kind of realise how clubs have changed their outlook and you know, on all the facets of the supporters. So yeah,
members of staff at the club, they've got a whole team dedicated to looking after supporters with disability. So get in touch. They are really, really good. Can't thank them enough for what they've done for us and what they do for everybody else down there. So yeah, club, they've always been one step ahead of pretty much every other club in the league when it comes to stuff like this. It's not just class on the pitch, you know, or off the pitch leadership and stuff. It's stuff like this that not many people are aware of, but they're one step ahead of the curve when it comes to stuff like this kind of forward thinking. Inside the stadium, everything's fully accessible, and the staff are always great. So yeah,
that's fantastic. Yeah, we've never touched on that before, but it's really good to hear, and it will probably inspire and help someone else out to kind of make that phone call that they need to make. Absolutely. Jay, it's been brilliant once again. Great podcast. Paul will be back at some stage, and Lauren's sunning herself somewhere. She must be part lizard by now in all those temperatures. Jay, I will see you on the next one. Hopefully we can smile again and talk about some more goals. Sure. Thanks for watching. See you later. Cheers. Bye.